ScotWeek is a non-profit 501c3 created in Los Angeles, the entertainment capital of the world. ScotWeek's mission is to celebrate and perpetuate the very special relationship between Scotland and the United States, as well as modern Scottish culture combined with traditional Scottish history. ScotWeek was created to shine a spotlight on Scottish contributions not only in the US, but throughout the globe, by highlighting Scotland's rich history of art, music, film and television, business and innovation, travel, food, and drink. As a charity, ScotWeek provides educational and internship opportunities through our partnerships with the Scottish Business Network, Entrepreneurial Scotland, and the Saltire Foundation, all with the support of the Scottish Government. In this series, we'll go behind the scenes of entertainment and industry as we interview our favorite members of the Scottish community. Get a first-hand look at the cultural contributions of the Scottish diaspora, and travel with us around the world on an exciting journey to experience all things Scottish.
Hi, I'm Cindi McIntosh.
And I'm Kelsey Deanne.
And this is ScotWeek.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us at ScotWeek. We are so thrilled to have some special guests for you. Kelsey, can you tell us what we're doing today?
Yes, so welcome to Scottish International Week. We are so delighted to partner, and we have today some amazing guests, and this is our Scottish actors panel. So without further ado, I want to introduce Sylvester McCoy, Grant O'Rourke, and Tony MacGeever. So who wants to go first? Tell us about yourselves.
I'm Grant. I'm a cancer, and I enjoy watching videos of bodybuilders eat and consume their daily calories, and also just try to do everyday things that are quite difficult for them because they're so huge. And I'm an actor as well. Sorry.
That's fascinating.
Was that the flavor? Yeah.
Do you impersonate other astrological signs as well?
I don't impersonate them at all. I am a cancer. Absolutely am. Believe.
Wonderful. And Sylvester, how about you? Tell us about yourself.
Well, I'm an actor, yes, and I lend my torso to bodybuilders. And I eat so that they can, not eat. Yes, well, I'm me. I am a Leo. With Leo rising.
Leo rising.
I'm rising too, yay.
Yes.
Wait, what does that mean?
At my age, it's the only thing that's rising.
Oh, goodness.
Sorry.
I don't know if Tony wants to jump in here or not. Tony, how are you feeling about this?
Well, how can I beat those two introductions? Tony, I'm an Aries, and I like comics and whiskey.
Fantastic. Well, this week we have some Scots that are very shy. I've learned this about the Scots, that they don't like to promote themselves. So, Sylvester McCoy, you can see him most shiningly on Doctor Who. You're number 7 on Doctor Who, and amazing stories about that. You're also in The Hobbit, Radagast the Brown, and you just came out with a Scottish Christmas film that you shot in Glencoe that I want to hear all about. And Tony, you were in Warhorse for 2 years on the West End, and you're also in Shetland and a bunch of other things, and you have a whiskey company, which is really exciting. And Grant, I mean, oh my goodness, you are a beautiful stage actor, and that was your love and how you started out. I mean, I'm speaking for you, but we did a ScotWeek podcast with you. You're really into Shakespeare, and you were on 4 seasons of Outlander.
Oh my gosh, I love Outlander. Rupert.
So that's just a little bit highlighting their non-astrological signs in their career. But with that, Cindi, what is the first question?
Well, just for fun, all of you across the pond, this is happy hour for you. And you can tell Kelsey and I are happy, and it's early in the morning for us. That's okay. Do you have any good drinks with you? Anybody drinking scotch right now?
Well, of course, I have to be drinking a scotch. So, but yeah.
Tony, what have you got?
My go-to, Lefroy, 10-year-old.
Ooh.
Yeah.
It's not your company though, is it?
No, but I do stuff with them. So I've got a little project that I'm working on with them at the moment. But so I've got to keep on brand, as they say. So at the moment, so or if not, I'll get in a lot of trouble. So, but yeah.
I'm drinking water because whiskey's bogging, as they say in Scotland. Not for me. Tastes like a house fire.
Yeah.
Stephen Colbert says.
Did you have to drink whiskey when you were on Outlander, though? Wasn't that a requirement for being on that show?
No, it was just water. I mean, I did drink a lot of whiskey, but that wasn't never on set. It was always. But yeah, it's not for me. It's the only drink that makes me feel sick.
Oh, good heavens!
Yeah, and it tastes like something you might creosote a fence with. So it's not.
Well, we just booked you for our next Whiskey Wednesday, live at 5, Grant. It's you and
I'm
me.
terrible at them. We did. I was in somewhere. We did like a whiskey event thing and an Outlander event, and they had all these different kinds of whiskies, and the guy talked them through, and there was a little chocolate paired with each one. But I just came in and sat down and just tanked every one after the other. So it was just like an hour of being like anxious and slightly drunk. It was a tough one.
Wow.
Yeah.
And Sylvester,
Oh dear, that reminds me of my way back, where me and a friend, we drank everything that was in the house, and then we discovered these chocolates, and they all had whiskey in them, so we drank those as well. That was a long time ago. I'm drinking coffee.
Oh, coffee, lovely.
Your black coffee.
Oh,
French.
That's it.
That'd be French.
and you're
At this time of day, you'll be up all night.
No, but I'll go to the whiskey afterwards.
Ah.
I've got lots of chocolate whiskey here.
All right.
We'll be right over.
So next question is, Sylvester, let's start with you. What is your most memorable stage or film or TV production, and why? And tell us about that.
Well, at my age, I can't remember anything. I suppose, memorable. Well, I suppose one of the very first things I ever did, really, which was an evening with Sylvester McCoy, the Human Bomb, where I broke the world record for having ferrets down my trousers. I escaped from a mail bag. I banged nails into my nose. I set light to my head. I blew fire. And I played the spoons. Yes. And that was very memorable.
And you can watch this on YouTube, I believe.
I beg your pardon?
And this is on YouTube, right? I think I watched you doing this on YouTube.
There is a bit, yeah, because we filmed it for the Secret Policeman's Ball with the Python lot way back in 1066. But recently, I suppose, playing the fool in King Lear to a very tall fellow called Ian McKellen. That was quite a memorable experience. We travelled the world and then we filmed it. It was a theatrical experience. But I also did Sense8, which I love doing, which was with the Wachowski sisters. I mean, when I started, there was a Wachowski sister and a Wachowski brother, but then the brother became a sister, so they ended up as sisters. And I remember thinking, they started off with them, in the West in Hollywood as the Wachowski brothers, and by the time I finished with them, they were sisters. That was quite interesting, really. And also, it made me think, this is the only way women can get on in Hollywood, is it? I don't know.
Was that in the second season of Sense8?
Yes.
I've only seen the first one.
Right.
Was that Spanish gentleman in it who is maybe the most handsome man I've ever seen in my life?
Yes, he was. Yes.
Oh.
Well, he was the most handsome man in it. Then I arrived. So, I mean,
yeah.
Fail, with my, the body. I wasn't lending my torso to a bodybuilder at the time. It was all mine. In fact, no, actually, it's a lie. I look pregnant. If you look at it, I look as if I'm pregnant. But I got to work with Tuppence Middleton, who's absolutely beautiful. So that I enjoyed doing that. That was a great thing. But do I talk about my Scottish thing yet, or have I done enough talking?
You can talk some more. We have time.
Have you? Yeah, and then I've just I've just a thing called Owners with what's her name, Maisie Williams, Rita Tushingham, which has come out in the States. It's on one of these up there, and in a Sputnik, someone with a projector that projects it on, and then somehow it spreads it around the world. I've no idea how it technically works. But that's just come out, and it's kind of a horror film. It's quite fun, really. But the Scottish one, the really Scottish one, is called Perfect Strangers, and I filmed it in Glencoe in January. And as I was going to Glencoe, a big white van, was blown off the road, but that was just before we arrived. So we stopped in a gale, and I couldn't get out of the car because it was so strong on the door. But eventually we managed to get out of the car and crawl down to this van that was on its side of the road, and we looked in, but there was no one there. There was a police tape, so obviously the police had found him. But the guy who was with me was very disappointed because he hoped to see the guy's face when, in the middle of a gale in Glencoe, Dr. Who came along and saved him. But sadly we didn't. But it was a wish.
Oh my goodness. Gosh. Wow. Well, I'm so excited for that to be released globally, and it's perfect timing for Christmas coming up, especially now during.
Well, they say it's Scotland's first Christmas film. Don't know if it is really. It's got great Claire Croghan's in it, and Sanjit Kauli, who's brilliant.
Oh.
Kenny Boyle, Natalie Clark, and Fraser Hines. Fraser Hines and I do a double act as two old farts in a bar. No acting required, really. There was lots of whiskey.
Who had the smelliest?
We didn't do. Oh, no, sorry. Thank you, pardon.
Oh, you said two old farts. I was wondering who had the smelliest farts between you two.
Oh, it was such a gale. Every time you farted, it was an island before you knew it.
Oh Lord! On that note, Grant. So tell us about tell us about a memorable experience on for a stage or film or TV, and then go ahead and tell us about what's next for, are there any projects that are coming out or what's exciting for you?
There's nothing coming out. There's no theatre or anything or much work. I've been doing mostly voiceover work recently. So I don't know when. Memorable. Like you say, I can't remember most of it. But recently I had quite a nice experience because I'd shot this kids TV program a few years ago called A Long, Long Crime Ago, and the setup, it was like a special. The setup was nursery rhyme characters in court having to defend themselves. So Goldilocks has to, and a little panel of kids, a jury of kids, has to figure out whether they're guilty or not guilty of eating the porridge and whatnot. So anyway, I shot this thing a long time ago, but my son was too young to actually watch it, and he only just discovered it on YouTube 2 weeks ago. And we had a great time making it, but I had an even better time watching it with him. He was so excited by the fact that I'm on YouTube, which is pretty much the only media he uses at the moment. So it's kind of that was a fairly memorable experience. The rest of them, they all just bleed into each other. You forget what the highlights are.
Very cool. And do you have any, I know we have a lot of Outlander fans too. Do you have a memorable Outlander experience?
Oh, it was all memorable. One day I worked 5 days in a row. That was a pretty tough week. But the rest of the time, it was just like I'd pop in for one day and then nick off again. I'd come in and do 3 hours in the morning. I'd be like, bye guys, see you next week. Keep cracking that whip. But,
I love that expression. It's very Highland. One day I worked 5 days in a week.
You should have seen me at the end of it though. I was miserable. 5 days in a row. We were in Aviemore, which is quite nice, and there's this lovely little pub in Aviemore called the Bridge Inn, which does amazing food. So that was like the highlight of the week, was everybody going to get dinner there. But yeah, by day 5, I was exhausted. It was just, I don't know how everybody else did it. I much prefer just sort of popping in part-time, then going home for a week.
Was that for the collecting of the rents? Was that for the scene of the collecting of the rents where you were out in the countryside? Or I was trying to think when that would have been.
Yeah, I think it was, because there's a model not a model village, but like a little Highland village near there as well. You know, when Graham McTavish is whipping Sam's shirt off and shouting in Gaelic about Charlie Sheen and things like that, so trying to get everyone excited. Sorry, the Charlie Sheen thing. I say that, it's just that we used to always listen to the speeches.
Was Charlie Sheen in it?
No, I know, that's the thing. We used to listen to these speeches, but we don't speak Gaelic, and you'd always just hear one phrase in the middle of it.
Yeah.
So like Graham would be standing there and Charlie Sheen, and it was the only thing you could focus on. There was also somebody else did a speech where they just said horsiness, and I've got no idea what it means. But
I did the Gaelic film once in Benbecula in a storm, and we did it. It was a short film, so we did in English and in the Gaelic. And then I, as a little boy, had learned in Ireland, tiny little boy. So that was the last time I'd spoken the language. Anyway, they said they'd send me all the ways of means of being able to speak it. And of course, they didn't. So when we actually filmed it, I had a scarf and a gale to get me through it, because I'd say, yes, now I think he's over there. And then I'd turn so the scarf blew up over my mouth. And I'd say, and then I said, you can dub it in later. That's how I got away with it.
Oh my gosh. With that, Tony, so tell us about you. Tell us about a memorable experience. And I know you have an amazing project coming up. So tell us all about these two things.
Yes. I suppose anytime you get an opportunity to act is a blessing, to be honest. Obviously, like in Warhorse for 2 years, like every day.
That was brilliant.
Because it was the centenary year.
Were you the back end?
No, I wasn't. Did you recognise me?
Yeah, I said. All right.
I was like, I know that tale. So for those, I played David Taylor, which is Albert's best pal, and I played Baby Joey as well. And like every day would have been like an anniversary of some battle during the war, so that was great. But the most memorable, to be honest, is before we went live, I actually worked with Grant's cousin in a plane back in Edinburgh called A War of Two Halves. And any opportunity you get to go home, you know, get to act, be with your family, your friends, get to muck around on stage for 2 hours. Any opportunity like that is great. And that play was about sort of the first ever football team to sign up to go to war. But the great thing about this play was most of the audience that came was an audience that would never really go to the theatre, because they would normally be at the football matches. So it was incredible. Every show, you know, they'd be waiting in the bar for us, you know, and some people, they'll go, I've never seen theatre before, and I'm now going to go to the theatre after seeing this. And seeing that aspect of it that's to me, you know, is why I want to do what I do, so to speak.
It was a very good show. I took my mum to see it.
Yeah.
And we had to go because my cousin...
He wasn't playing football that weekend.
No. But yeah, it was a good show. It was very emotional.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was truly amazing. And with that, our next question is, so what Scottish stage or film production has been most memorable to you? And whether you were in it or maybe not, I know oftentimes we interview people and they talk about something that they watched while they were growing up. Could be anything. What comes to mind, Grant, when you think of what was most memorable to you?
One of the most memorable experiences I've had in a theatre recently, in the last few years, was seeing Pride and Prejudice, sort of. It's called by Izzy MacArthur. It's one of the funniest, most sort of heartwarming, brilliantly performed productions I've ever seen. And it's basically just, you know, a condensed 2-hour version of Pride and Prejudice, but it's a cast of 6 young, hilarious actresses. And also, if you're an actress, it's very much worth picking that. Have a look for the script of that and have a look at it, because it's full of amazing scenes. But I just remember sitting there with a huge smile on my face the whole time and thinking, this is the best advert for theatre I've ever seen. Like, if anybody came to see this for the first time, came to a theatre for the first time to see this, they would definitely come back again. And I'm not keen on Jane Austen adaptations in general. I'm not really keen on that whole kind of period thing. But this was fantastic. It was phenomenal, and I can't recommend it highly enough. If it's ever touring, and it will be touring internationally, and no doubt lots of companies will be picking it up. So yeah, that was an amazing experience.
Oh, you have
I
to
played
look for
Mr.
that.
Bennett. I played Mr. Bennett once.
Mr. Bennett's the dad, isn't he?
Yeah,
And
and I have to say that it was wonderful because all you had to do was deliver her lines with clarity, and you got a woofer every time. You didn't have to her wit. I wasn't a great fan, because I just thought it was a bit sloppy, a bit English, a bit kind of in that kind of negative way. But having done it, I'm just so full of admiration for her wit. I mean, she was a very witty writer.
The first thing I wanted to do was go and read some Jane Austen afterwards. Mr. Bennett in this production, by the way, because it was 6 actresses, Mr. Bennett was played by an armchair with its back to the audience, and just
that was me
propped up.
That was me. That was the one I was in. I didn't say I'm a bit of a wooden actor, but I mean.
Yeah, it was a great show.
It was. It's a lovely show. Yeah.
Tony, what for you was most memorable that you can think of?
A lot of my friends will probably know what I'm about to say right now, but it was kind of it was Black Watch by the National Theatre of Scotland.
Oh yeah.
And I seen that way back in the Drill Hall during the Edinburgh Festival Theatre before I got into even like college or anything. And like to me, theatre before was a little bit stuffy, but this was just, and I get cast as a lot of soldiers and stuff like that, and it just really connected with me and stuff. And my brother was in the army as well at the time. They're all Scots and stuff, and it just absolutely blew me away. And it still does to this day every time I watch it. So, yeah.
Have you got it on video?
Baby. What's that?
Have you got it on video, or did you bootleg record it?
Oh, no. Well, it's on the it went live on the BBC, so there's a DVD of it as well. So, yeah, you can. I do watch it every time if I can. So, it was just great. Just a great ensemble piece, and yeah. And if anyone hasn't seen it, I've got a few DVD copies that I can sell after. So,
I would like one.
Hello,
and Sylvester.
Yeah, pardon? Hello, yes.
Sylvester, what is your most memorable? Do you have a most memorable? And I know there's so many probably for you. You've had so many great experiences and done some wonderful. You have such an amazing body of work. And so is there anything that stands out?
That sentence and forget the work bit. Say it again.
You have an amazing body.
Thank you. Yes.
Of work.
I learned out. The very first thing I ever saw, I was a tiny little boy with little blue-eyed, blonde, tiny little, and smaller for my size. And I lived in Dunoon, Argyll, Scotland, and we didn't have a lot of theatre up there. And I was taken to Glasgow at Christmas to see Peter Pan. And I'll never forget it, really, because I'd never been in a theatre before. And I had to get on a paddle steamer to go across the Clyde, to get on a steam train to go to Glasgow. We went to this theatre, and I was enraptured by the theatre, the inside, the balconies, the flock wallpaper, the little lights. It was all magical. And I couldn't see the play sitting on a chair, so I had to stand up, and I was like that. That's how small I was. And I can still see the set of Peter Pan. That was all those years ago. And that was it. That was the most magical thing. But I'm sorry to grab two. The other was I was training to be the Pope in Aberdeen, and they took us out at the age of 12 to go and see an opera. I didn't even know what it meant, opera. And they took me to see this opera, and at the end of it, I was weeping. And it was La Bohème, and it was, about bohemians. And then years later, I was asked to write my autobiography, which I started and stopped and never did it. But I got to that point, and suddenly I went ping, because what had happened was, while I was watching that opera, even though I wanted to be the Pope, that changed my mind, because I realized what was driving me since then was to become a bohemian. And that's what I became. I ended up, maybe not on the left bank, but in Belsize Park. I'm in London. I mean, that's as near as damn it to the left bank in those days. And it was the power of that piece that had just gave me that. I had no idea what magic, that, piece of magic came off the stage and into me. And underneath it was driving me forward to become a bohemian.
Wow. That's incredible. I love the story.
It's the power of our job, isn't it, lads and lassies and bagpipers?
Kelsey.
Yes. So
do you like?
What's that?
Do you like to ask the next question, or?
I would. So the other thing is, for Scottish International Week, we literally have Scots all around the world in every single continent. Maybe not Antarctica, but in every single continent.
There will be some Scottish guy in Antarctica
There
walking
will be.
about with just a t-shirt on.
Yes.
He'll have Wi-Fi.
Exactly, some Antarctica Scottish scientists, I'm sure. So you guys have worked with so many different productions that are international, from people from all the world yourselves, because that's what film does. Is it kind of evens the playing level and brings everybody together for art. So I just wanted to know, what sets Scots apart, especially when you're on set or on stage? What is it that people have told you, like, ooh, you're Scottish? This is, whether it's cultural, historical, if it's just whiskey or a personality or charm or whatever it is, what sets Scots apart?
Well, one of the first things I ever did before I actually became an actor, I joined an amateur drama group because I used to go back from work on a bus and all these pretty girls went into this place. So I joined it, and they were doing Hamlet. So they gave me the gravedigger, and I played the gravedigger with a very Scottish accent. And afterwards, everyone said, well, your gravedigger was very funny, but we didn't understand one word you said. And I think that's what it was, really, the Scottish accent. It was,
Yeah, I think.
and the guy that ran it took me aside and said, I don't think you should become an actor. Maybe you want to direct, but that was it, don't become an actor. And then many years later, I was in the West End, and he came to see a play I was in with the guy who had played Hamlet in it. And they were still friends, and afterwards I went out for a meal, and this guy, Peter Coxhead, who'd told me not to become an actor, he said to Lee Lawson, he said, I knew he would make it. I knew he'd become famous. That was a lovely revenge.
Brilliant. So the Scottish accent, okay, that definitely sets you apart. I love a good Scots accent. So Tony, what do you think sets Scots apart in terms of stage and film and acting?
I don't think we take ourselves too seriously as people in this country, and then therefore we just get the job done. We're grafters, in any aspect. If you want a job done, hire a Scotsman and you'll do it, basically.
I got employed in the City of London, and one of the reasons was, there was quite a few reasons, but one of them was I was a Scot, because the guy said to me, the Scots are very hardworking. I proved him wrong.
Goodness. And Grant, what about you?
We complain better than any other actor on the planet, I would say. We don't do anything about it. Okay, we just take it all, and then we just complain a lot and change nothing. So we're perfect actors in that respect. But I think I was speaking to an English theatre director who asked what the difference was between England and Scotland, and she said that the rehearsal room in Scotland is much more democratic environment. Everybody expects to be heard and to be seen, and I think we kind of see directors as, and to a different extent, showrunners and people who pay your wages. We sort of see them as first among equals, I guess. But we're direct about it, and we like to moan about them as well.
Brilliant.
Okay.
So, Scottish accent, hardworking, yet complains a lot.
I mean, to be honest, it's probably just me. I just love complaining.
We'll get the job done
Absolutely.
with a lot of complaints.
Yeah.
And also, I found that because sometimes we'd have international directors in theatre or in Outlander as well, and I feel like they weren't quite sure about the sarcasm sometimes. So when you're loudly, sarcastically shouting at somebody across the set, you could see sometimes they'd be like, "Oh, is he upset about something?" It's like, no, that's just the way they talk to each other.
A friendly shout. A friendly shout.
yeah, but you do though. You know, especially in Glasgow, more so than Edinburgh. Everyone's a bit more reserved in Edinburgh, but in Glasgow, yeah, it's much more continental in that respect. Like European, I think we all kind of quite happy to shout at each other and your best friends 5 minutes later. You know.
Very fun. So this next question, I think, is interesting to look at it in terms of the past, but also present and moving forward, because I think, because of everything that's happened to everyone across the globe this year, it's going to be fascinating to watch how everyone recovers in their industries, and gets on their feet. And so just wanted to ask the question of how have things changed since you started for each one of you? And then moving forward, what in the world, is going to be happening in your industry, do you think, over the next maybe couple of years? Will it get back to what we would call normal? Do you think it will be forever changed in some ways?
I think it has to go back to some kind of normality. But I mean, that really just depends on the governments in question. The British government isn't really handling this very well at all, I would say. And theatre at the moment, they conservatively, optimistically estimated that maybe spring 2021 would be a time for audiences to return to the theatre. But that's not looking very likely at the moment, I think. So they're mismanaging it so badly. It's hard to see what the immediate future lies for theatre in Britain. And certainly in Scotland, and theatre's already very underfunded. So I don't know, they're going to have to get creative. Maybe there could be a change for the better. We might see more of an emphasis on artists. Increasingly, there's more and more middle management been employed in the last 10, 15 years. So like higher staff numbers, because they're so underfunded, they have to bring in more staff to try and find more funding and so on. It's like a cycle. But I don't know. Maybe it's a clean slate. Maybe we might see more of an emphasis on artists. Fingers crossed for that one. That's me just maybe being naive. But it's hard. It's really hard to see. I mean, you guys all know it's really hard to see what our future is right now.
Shakespeare, he was writing in a plague time, wasn't he?
Yeah, no. People cared less then as well. People didn't have iPhones, Sylvester, so they weren't checking the updates every day.
I know. Because they didn't have roofs on the theatre, so the fresh air could get in and blow all the plague away. Yeah, take all the roofs off the theatres. That's my only pathetic answer to the terrible times we're going through, perhaps. Open air theatre.
Brilliant. The amphitheaters, that's brilliant. Let's all just come back to Los Angeles, and we have one of the largest amphitheaters.
Well, I see.
Yeah,
I know a lot of people are
lighting in Los Angeles now because all the trees are burning all around. So there's you've got plenty of lighting.
So true.
There's a lot of emphasis as well. Like I don't know why we can't get audiences in with masks at the moment, since it seems to be acceptable to go everywhere else with a mask on. And if masks are uncomfortable, like a big diver's helmet or something, why can't people come in with goldfish bowls on their heads? Whatever they want. Like, let's just make it more special.
Doing a comedy though with people with masks, the laughs will be muffled.
It'd be terrifying, wouldn't they? You'd have a little laugh hole in the top, Sylvester, so it just shoots up the top.
Because years ago we played a Japanese audience, the Ken Camarocho. We used to lots of laughs, but they were so polite. They laughed up the sleeve.
Really?
Yes. So we were doing all our stuff, and all we could hear was all the haters.
Is it true? Is it true as well in Japan that it's like the highest mark of respect you can get from an audience is silence? In the end.
Really?
I'm not a big fan of curtain calls, so that's like a dream scenario for me. I love the
Is it?
idea
Oh, right.
of just
Yeah.
walking off to the sound of your own footsteps.
Well, in the early days when we first started touring Europe, we used to get the slow hand clap. Which in our country means, it's terrible. And we used to go out there but then they kind of make us feel better by coming up with little bottles of alcohol and big flowers, so we'd be standing there with flowers and a bottle of alcohol, getting a slow hand clap. So we didn't mind too much, really.
Yeah, there's some crazy long curtain calls in like Eastern Europe as well.
Yeah.
5-10 minute curtain calls. It's undignified, frankly.
I've been in an opera, and they're really interesting curtain calls. They go on forever. They go on as long as the opera sometimes. And when I was a guy called Ken Campbell, a wonderful genius director, he directed a kind of a bizarre opera at the ICA once, and he employed me to come in and direct curtain calls. That was my job.
Really?
Yes, because I'd been in an opera. No, McCoy, you've been in an opera. Show them how to do a curtain call.
Amazing.
Tony, how has everything changed for you since you started? How has the industry changed, and what do you think is going to happen moving forward? What would you like to see?
No disrespect, I think, I'm probably the freshest in, person out of drama school, even though I've been out 10 years, but I think things have got a little bit, we're in a personal business, but I think things are becoming impersonal now. Everything's self-tapes, technology's taken over. It's very rare that you'll actually ever see a casting director, or even on the weirdest experience I've ever had is I got cast off a self-tape, never met the director until the day I was about to shoot. It's just a really bizarre, experience. And, I like to be in the room. I like auditioning, in front of people. It's a part of the job. I enjoy it. I like meeting people. And especially now with what's happening, it's, if I could turn my camera around, I've got like books piled up with cameras to try and do self-tapes and stuff. And but in terms of like COVID, things have started to go back in London anyway. A few TV shows have started back up, but what it's like on set, I don't know. It is very, very bizarre, and I think Kelsey will know. Before lockdown, I got cast in a play in London, Tom Stoppard's Real Thing. I did the audition on Wednesday, got cast on the Friday, and then by Monday everything shut down. You still
get paid?
No.
Ah, bummer.
Thing. Didn't sign the contract. I was like, oh, absolutely. So, but it's just one of those things, you've just got to find other avenues right now, and lean on other things. Do
you not find with the increase in self-tapes though, do you not find that like that's a great advantage? Like I see it as an improvement. I think it's a great advantage for like in this age of knowledge of neurodiversity. I think a lot of actors who are brilliant would be perfect for the part maybe lose out because they're so bad in the audition room. And the opposite of that is true. Some terrible actors will get cast and stuff because they're so good in the audition room.
Yeah.
And so like the self-tape thing just keeps it down to the acting, it's sort of, you can't fuck it up with your personality, I'm speaking for myself. But yeah.
Well, it's a self-tape, that's why.
Yeah, the less chat, the better, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, silent movies. Let's go back to those days.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just to close out, I know we're coming to the end, but is there a special talent or skill that you guys want to talk about or show us? Or, because I know as artists, we're all multi-talented. We have varying interests, but because we have to, and we love to explore and just to soak up life. So or is there a project that you're working on that you're really excited about, if you're writing it, directing it, producing it, or just helping it get off the ground, that you want to share with us? Tony, we're still on you, so do you want to tell us about that?
Well, yeah, it was probably like the good thing that's come out of what's happened is, leaning on of kind of got on more to my writing and things like that. I'm currently in development of 2 films at the moment. One is with Lefroy. We're writing the story of Bessie Williams.
Is that a French actor?
French Lefroy.
I don't know.
Yeah. Lefroy, yeah. But, so Bessie Williamson, she was the first ever female distillery owner in the world. So she owned Lefroy from around about the 1940s. So to do that in such a male-dominated industry, especially society around that age as well, was remarkable. And, you know, she literally, you know, she won Women of the Year, but she never told anyone about it because she wasn't, you know, for praise. She didn't want to get praise. So they found that later. They found it in an envelope in a drawer that she won Women of the Year. She fought off the Germans on Isla, basically. She became a secret operative. All the amazing stories. And she dealt with the mob and the gangs in New York and stuff during Prohibition. So a phenomenal woman. So we're doing that story. And something else that we're doing is there was a hip-hop group called Syllable and Brains. They were signed by Sony. They supported Eminem, D12, for example. And everyone thought they were from California, but it actually turned out to be 2 guys from Dundee. Yeah. So there was a fantastic documentary that came out. So I was able to acquire the rights, and we're sort of in talks with a few. We've got some actors attached to it, so it's really exciting, and it's kind of going back to, you know, Scotland, you know, like commissioning power. You know, we need to be telling more Scottish stories about Scottish people, and there's just not enough of it. So we need to push that as much as possible.
Absolutely.
Well, I too am also writing a screenplay about Bessie Williams, the first Scottish woman to own a distillery. Now,
Yeah. Did you get whiskey with it?
So yeah, it's going to be like the Dante's Peak to your volcano.
A healthy competition isn't a bad thing. It's very American view.
But it seems in Scotland, for years, you kept wishing that they had a studio complex. And then, you know, and then Ireland comes along and does Game of Thrones, and they get a studio complex. And then so much work has gone to the north of Ireland, and the Northern Irish actors, many of them friends, have got great careers now because of that. It's not just the one.
It's so frustrating,
TV
isn't it?
It is. But I thought that the Outlanders or whatever it was, they were building a studio. Have they done something similar?
They have a big studio space, in what's it called? Cumbernauld. It was an accident. Cumbernauld. But obviously it's not got, Cumbernauld doesn't have a huge international appeal. But yeah, I mean, they've been going on about
that shopping centre is just, you know, it looks as if it's dropped from some planetary prison, you know, that escaped and landed in Cumbernauld.
Yeah, it's very brutal.
It is, isn't it?
But I mean, it's weird because I mean, we were just watching that Hobbs and Shaw film, me and my son, the one with Jason Statham and Dwayne Johnson, which filmed in Glasgow, and you like to sort of play street spot, and obviously Avengers Endgame and Infinity War shot in Edinburgh and around Edinburgh. So it's like we have people from all over the world, massive productions, who want to film here. It's mind-boggling that they don't have a studio that we haven't figured out how to have one yet.
Yeah, I mean, the SNP should somehow start thinking of putting money in, because it's short sight. It's like you invest in these things and you get so much back. You know? I mean, the arts of film and theatre and all the kind of the arts that we're involved in make so much money for Britain. I mean, you know, and tourism, the whole thing. You know, I mean, well, you know, if the Highlands, all the tourist industries, if they get any money left, because now sadly because of this, but they should be pouring money into these things because it brings people in if you know they're successful, hotels fill up, restaurants, you know, everything, all the other stuff. And it's so important that Scotland get it. And there should be, you know, we should start nagging SNP or anybody or the Scottish
SNP, like, it's like, I go back to like the commissioning power thing. In
Yeah.
Scotland, we've got no power of where the money goes, believe it or not, and things get blocked. Well, there was meant to be the Lord of the Rings prequel getting filmed in Scotland. It was all going to go ahead, and it got blocked by the UK government for some reason. They started auditioning and stuff, and everyone was getting excited. There was going to be lots of parts for local Scottish people, and it got blocked. So our hands are tied, you know. So.
Yeah.
Well, maybe something good will come of people watching this panel discussion
this is
that
the
we're
way to
doing.
make a change. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure
will
the
do
entire
that.
government are sitting watching this right now and like, you know what, those boys are right.
The revolution,
I'll tell you. Give you some money.
Yes, and if you need advisors, these three gentlemen, call them. They're on it. They can advise you.
It's true.
Yeah, I'll mostly, my advice will be in the form of complaints, I would think. And they won't change anything.
Plain and chief.
Yeah.
That's a
I
good
get a bit grumpy about 3 p.m. So that's when it.
Well, let's
When it
not
comes
ask
out.
you to be the spokesperson because they won't be able to understand them.
Exactly.
Well, back to passion projects or talented skills you want to share. Grant, do you want to tell us about something you're really excited about?
Well, like I say, I'm just like a job and voiceover actor at the moment. So I don't know. I'm working on my second album, which will be out at some point. But I think I'm starting to suspect I might have ADHD as well because I get very distracted very easily. So like I started working on my second album and I started doing really good work for like 2 weeks, and then I started doing some other thing, and everything just sort of, I just keep doing lots of different projects. So I started to get back onto the album again, and then I met an old friend and we're like, oh, we should do something together as well. So we're going to collaborate on something together. It's very exciting. It's lots and lots of unfinished projects up in the air. Maybe they'll never get finished. Who knows? But the second album will be out at some point.
Oh, very
Whiskey.
Whiskey. And I listen to your music and it's amazing, but can you tell whoever is watching right now a little bit more about your music and where they can listen to you? Because it's absolutely beautiful.
Oh, thank you. It's available on Spotify and iTunes and all the places that you stream music. I think it's even on YouTube if you know what you're looking for. It's called Inexpensively Put Together. It's an eponymous album by Grant O'Rourke. And the second one's going to be going a slightly different direction, hopefully. Or it might just be more of the same, where people will be like, this is not a new direction, Grant, at all. You've totally oversold that. How dare you? But I was talking to my wife about this earlier, and she was talking about that Andy Warhol quote about, just it's important that you just make the art and let everybody else decide if it's good or not. And then while they're all talking about it, you just go and make more art. So I think that's kind of where my headspace is at the moment. Where we both are as well, because my wife designs stuff too. Kira Doherty Designs. Have a look. Buy some stuff, please.
Oh,
you have a child to feed.
Kira Doherty?
Kira Doherty Designs, yes.
Wow, that's amazing. Please check that out. Everyone needs to go and look that up. I'm excited to see what she does.
You should, yeah. There's some great stuff on it. You guys would love it.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, we'll have to connect her with Scottish Business Network and get her plugged in to get her online selling platform going.
Yeah, why not?
That's cool. And Sylvester, would you like to share with us a project or one of your many talents?
Well, my project is just to get up the next morning and hope that I haven't caught the wee bug. But I mean, I have a talent that I've actually played these instruments with the London Concert Orchestra at the Barbican Hall, and I won competition in the North Pole for playing the spoons. So I'm very proud of my spoons, really, which Oh, I belong to Glasgow, oh dear, a Glasgow tune. There's nothing the matter with Glasgow set, it's going round and round. I'm only a coming to work and cap, is there anyone here to see? But when I got a couple of hops on a Saturday, Glasgow belongs to me. So that's it, that's the end of my career. Thank you very much. I thank you.
You know, both Kelsey and myself have had the great pleasure of having you play spoons on our knees.
Yes, well, I had more pleasure than you, I tell you.
It was mutual, Sylvester. It was mutual. Oh dear. And with that, Cindi, is there anything else you would like to ask, or is there anything else that everyone would like to share?
I'd like to add something. Sylvester, my wife is a big Doctor Who fan, and you were her first Doctor, so she's a big fan.
Oh, that's lovely to hear. Thank you.
Yeah.
Great. Yes.
Fantastic. We're just so very honored to have you all on here today and to take part in Scottish International Week there, which it would have been the 4th year in Edinburgh. Hopefully we can do it in person next year. And thank you for being so supportive of ScotWeek, our mission, all things Scottish and Scotland. And we're just very appreciative to have you, and thank you. We cannot thank you enough, and we would love to keep up with all of you and follow what you're doing. And if there's ever anything we can do for you and shine a spotlight as we can on your projects, please do let us know, and we will look forward to checking back in with you regularly.
Yes,
I would like to apologize to America for sending Mr. Trump's mum.
I saw that picture of her, like her hair, and I thought that was a joke. I was like, there's no way that Donald Trump is wearing his mum's hair. Like, not specifically her real hair, sorry, but it's like, who models their hairstyle after their mum? Like,
well, yeah, maybe she got it. It was a gale on out Harris. Is it Harris she comes from? You know, because her hair was way up there.
Yeah, it is. It's like, yeah.
I mean, it was kind of based on the beehive. The most like there were little bees and, you know, mice in there living there happily.
Or the Mr. Whippy, as we called it in my day.
All right.
You know, that reminds me of Radagast. She had little animals or, you know, things living in her hair. Radagast would have liked that sort of thing.
Yeah, he would have. Yeah, he'd have been happy with. He would have gone out with a lady with a beehive hairdo. Now, what can I put in there? Save it for the universe. I mean, for the world. Save it for the world.
Thank you all so very much for being with us. Kelsey, do you have anything to add before we say goodbye to these lovely gentlemen?
Just thank you all very much. You guys are all very dear to my heart, and you guys can all, everybody watching can follow these lovely gentlemen on social media. I know you all have Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all of that stuff. So be great to have your support there. And please follow ScotWeek. We have our YouTube channel and our social media channel. So we just appreciate all of your support, and Slán
Slán. Enjoy, everyone, and goodbye for now.